Hello, everyone. Welcome to EJG3 Show. This is your host, Eddie Gallagher. I am here with Ryan Walsho. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Ed. Happy to be back here again.
Absolutely. So this show is going to be talking about the NFL free agency, and well, it was pretty wild, Ryan. It was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, we're off to a hot start. There's been a lot of good signings. I think teams are, trying to start the season early before we even get to the draft and make some big splashes in free agency.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's start with some quarterbacks that went went to different places. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa. He got released by the Dolphins. He signed with Atlanta, and it was about 1.3 million. Uh, what was your reaction when you saw Dolphins cutting or releasing Tua?
I think it was probably time, the time Mike McDaniels and Tua seemed to kind of come to an end, where that spark just wasn't there anymore. So I didn't mind the releasing. And I can't say, I mean, I think I'm good with Atlanta going and picking two up for the veteran minimum, the 1.3 mil. Create some competition in the quarterback room, him and Michael Penix. I think it's going to bring out some good competition. Penix hasn't really solidified that starting spot. Tua's still got some game in him as long as he can stay healthy. Um, and they're both lefties, so no change in the game plan on that one. So and then also, I mean, you still have Kirk Cousins. I assume Atlanta wants to get rid of him, but
No, I believe they already released him.
did they? Okay, good. Yeah, so you have the two men right there, just trying to figure out where to go. But I think it was a good pickup for Atlanta.
Yeah, look, I think the Dolphins. It was time to cut Tua. It just felt like nothing was vibing. You saw it toward the end of the season. They benched him. So anytime you bench a quarterback and you bring him back, it's just not a good thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Time's coming to an end at
yeah,
that
and
point.
look, the Dolphins. It was a bad, it was a bad sign. You don't sign a quarterback who really can't beat good teams, and plus had unfortunate injury issues.
Right.
And they gave him a long-term deal, which I'm glad that he got the guaranteed money. Obviously for his health reasons.
Yeah.
Um, but it was an overall bad sign by the Dolphins. And now they have to eat up this. I believe it's a $99 million cap it,
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
which is a lot of money. But we've seen the Denver Broncos do it with Russell Wilson. The good thing is that this is the NFL. And the NFL, you can turn things around very quickly. So, but
Yep.
yeah, I think it's a good thing that the Dolphins got rid of him.
Yeah.
I'm, and now you're competing with Allen and Drake May. It's like he's not even in that class. So, I think it's time for the Dolphins. Now they have Malik Willis, which that's interesting.
Hmm.
But hopefully they can find a better option. Maybe not next year, but 2 years. Uh, for trying to find a new quarterback.
Right. You're saying the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but they have Malik Willis, so I don't even mind. I think Malik Willis maybe could be a guy. Um, I really like the Malik Willis signing. He was great in Green Bay. I think he had like 7-4 record as a backup. Not a lot of backups have great records. Can take over. The quarterback position for a few weeks when Jordan Love was injured and still bring the Packers to being a good team. I think he was solid wherever he's been before this. So I mean, I really don't mind that signing. I like the Dolphins going and getting him, and even if he's a bridge quarterback for a couple of years until they can get somebody in the draft, I think that's a good option too. So
Yeah, well, Malik Willis did really good for the Packers, coming off the bench. But for me, the Dolphins are not great with quarterbacks. Why would you sign with the Dolphins knowing, hey, they might be looking for another quarterback? Why wouldn't you find maybe a better option, like maybe the Vikings or the Steelers or something like that?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
why did you go to the Dolphins? Which that makes no sense to me.
well, the only thing what I heard is that the new coach and GM for the Dolphins came from the Packers, came from Green Bay. So I think there's that link there, where they know Malik Willis's game, they know who he is, he knows he's gonna have familiarity when he goes to Miami, having the similar coach, the GM. So I think there's that thing, kind of like how the Giants are getting everybody from Baltimore right now with John Harbaugh. It's like guys go there, or in college sports, when a head coach goes somewhere else, everybody hits the transfer portal and follows their coach. So I think there's kind of that little aspect there. Not saying Malik Willis is putting himself in the best situation because you don't really know what that wide receiver room is going to look like. You don't know how good the O line is going to be. I mean, you have a couple weapons. Achan's good. Waddle. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with Tyreek.
No, they released Tyreek.
Yeah, see, exactly. So it's stuff like that where kind of just got to wait to see how it plays out from the offensive standpoint and how good their offense is actually going to be.
Yeah, who knows? No, look, I could be wrong. We've seen quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and uh, Geno Smith for 1 to 2 years.
Yeah,
The quarterback can you know have a new career at different places, and obviously things didn't work out with Tennessee, which Tennessee is not a very good organization in terms of quarterback play. Uh,
right.
and then Green Bay obviously they're a factory with quarterbacks. But
Yeah,
yeah, look, hopefully Malik Willis does well. I'm rooting for him. But yeah, no, we'll see. Look, I'm glad that he got 45 million fully guaranteed. Hey, sometimes these quarterbacks they just want the money. Get as much money as possible.
right.
Which I can't blame NFL players for doing that or players in general.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's their job to get paid and get their money. So you can't blame them for trying to get their bread.
I want to go back to the Atlanta Falcons. Tua and Penix. Uh,
Yep.
who do you think has the edge here? Who will be day one star? Do you think?
I mean, normally how you see it is, um, it's kind of tough. I would kind of lean Penix until he loses the job. I think you kind of he played for like, however much he did last year, and he's been with the organization for
2 years.
2 3 years. Yeah,
This will be your third year.
yeah. So it's like you kind of give him the edge. If it's a straight toss up, you give him the edge, let him start, and he either earns his job by playing well, or he loses it, and you let the vet come in and take over from there. Um, I think that's just normally the way it goes in the NFL. Um, why? What do you think?
Well, look, I think Penix is a bigger, stronger quarterback. Not saying he's. I mean, he's okay. I mean, but he's had some injuries.
Yeah,
You have Drake London. You have a running back.
yeah,
Robinson, Bijan Robinson. Uh,
right.
look, when you bring in a quarterback, a guy like Tua, I get he got cut release, but he's been to the playoffs.
Yeah,
I
they play in a dome. They play in a dome. Don't have to worry about going to play too much in cold weather, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
there's
I
that.
I think I think Tua at the end of the day will be the day one starter. Look, I think he's better than Penix if you play the better guy.
Well, yeah. No, I think you said who will be the day one starter. What I think based on how it normally works, Penix. But if you ask me who I think is a better quarterback, I would take Tua on my team every single day
Right.
for Penix. So it just depends kind of on how it actually plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. I will ask the same question later in the show, but different quarterbacks. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Um, all right, so let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. You know, they got DJ Moore. They acquired a trade with Chicago Bears. They gave him a second round pick. And we got it. The Bills got a fifth round pick. What do you think about that move for the Bills?
They needed another guy. You have Josh Allen. The window's open as long as he's here. You need to build around him. He needs weapons. He needs guys. So, you know, Diggs is gone. You can see there's kind of a bit of struggle. They weren't as good, as solid as you could kind of think, or as well rounded as they were in years past. So they had to go out and get somebody. I don't mind DJ Moore. I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a solid pickup. They didn't have to spend a crazy amount on him. Second round pick. That's not too much. So I think now you have your wide receiver one.
You have
You have
Shaquille, yeah, you have the
yeah,
Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid,
yeah.
which are solid tight ends.
You got James Cook. I think you just made your offense a lot better. Um, so I think it was a good pickup. And then they got to worry about the defense, which I know they had a couple good defensive.
They got Bradley Chubb.
Yep, Bradley Chubb, C.J. Gardner Johnson. I think they just signed for a year. So really got to they just had to get a couple more guys. They're close. You have your franchise quarterback. You just got to get those couple extra pieces to get over the hump and hopefully, make that run.
Yeah, look, the offense had problems in the passing game, in terms of a deep threat wide receiver. And I think, when they got Brandon Cooks, at towards the end of the year, they really stretched the field out.
Hmm.
And I think DJ Moore can fill that role. Look, he's definitely gotten older. He's sort of up there in age, but he's
Right.
still a solid player.
Yep.
Uh, he's like kind of a 1 to a 2. And in terms of the Bills, you don't really need a true number one receiver. You just need a solid guy. He's better than Palmer, and he's a
Yeah.
lot better than Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and look, we'll see about Keon. They say, hey, we're gonna give him a chance. Look, Dalton Kincaid, I thought he would be a lot better in year two. He wasn't. He got better in year three. So sometimes it takes time. Coleman, this will be a third year.
Yep.
Hopefully, he can be a good third option. But who knows? Hope he improves. But there's always people in the draft as well. So we'll see what the Bills do in the wide receiver room. But I kind of like having a veteran. Rookies. It's sometimes hard to figure out the offense.
Yep.
But yeah, well, I think it's a solid pickup for the Bills.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. And like you said with Keon Coleman, he had flashes in his rookie year. Last year wasn't good by any means. So I think you bring the vet in, someone to kind of help him out and give him that nudge there. And I think he can kind of make the progressions that he has to make to be in the league, for a
Yeah,
decent time.
and look, they do have a late first round pick. I expect they go defense. Uh, in this
Yeah.
draft. But, I know they gave up a second round pick to Chicago. Maybe they trade back and try to get more picks. Who knows? That's what Brandon Beaton normally likes to do.
Okay.
Uh, so it's kind of interesting what they'll do, but I like the pickup of DJ Moore. I really do.
Yep. I would agree.
Okay, so Travis Kelsey, he's returning to the Chiefs. Uh, what do you make of that?
Um, it's it's whatever. I mean, he's gonna make an impact, but he's declining. Um, so let him play out his career until he wants to call it. I mean, you don't really get rid of him. He's KC for life. So I mean, I'm kind of indifferent on it. I don't know how much longer he has left, so let him make some damage. I mean, I know they have good backup tight ends that can kind of split some more time, give a bit more explosiveness because he's lost kind of that jumpiness, the explosive
Yeah.
out of his catches. So it's all right. He's not expensive either, so I'm fine with it. Um, yeah,
Travis Kelsey. he had a good year, but it wasn't like it was a Travis Kelce year.
Exactly.
Um, you know, I am shocked that he's returning. Which obviously good for him that he's returning. That means that he feels like he's ready to go.
Right.
Um, but yeah, no. Now look, does this make the Chiefs better on offense? Yeah, a little bit. But now since they got Kenneth Walker, which a running back they needed, uh, they'll probably go wide receiver in the draft or maybe a lineman. They're I think the right
O
tackle.
line.
The right tackle. They got to address in the draft.
Yeah.
Um, but I gotta tell you, I don't buy the Chiefs. I don't care if Patrick Mahomes is coming back. The Chiefs are not going to be good this year again.
Really.
Yeah.
I think that's a hot take, Ed. Um, I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think they come back swinging. Is Mahomes gonna be starting the season, or is
Who know? We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
I? Let me tell you, I love the Kenneth Walker signing. Um, Kansas City has been kind of running a by committee running backs for a handful of years now. With Hunt and Pacheco, who's now on the Lions. Um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who never really panned out to be what they wanted him to be. So I think you bring in Kenneth Walker, you bring in a dog. I think he's going to bring that versatility to the offense of where there's been games Kansas City the last few years they've tried to run the ball, but they have thrown so much more than they've ran. And I think when you bring Kenneth Walker in, he's good for 15, 20 carries a game. He wasn't getting that in Seattle. He was a workhorse, and then Charbonnet would be getting all the touchdowns and stuff. So I think he's ready to finally be that workhorse back and take over a backfield and have it all to himself. So I think that brings good versatility. You have good wide receivers. You have a decent tight end. I think they're gonna have a really good offense. It's just gonna be dependent on if that defense can stay as good as they've been in the past.
Yeah, Chris Jones is getting older.
Yeah.
They just traded Trent McDuffie to
Yeah.
the Rams,
Right.
which I love that for the Rams. I think the Rams they needed a cornerback and they got it. Uh, I think they're again one of the best teams heading into the NFL season. Uh,
Hmm.
they just would needed a one stop against uh Seattle, or else they would have been Super Bowl champs in my belief.
Right.
So I think the Rams they had a good offseason as well.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams didn't really have to do much, like you said. Like they were already a very complete team as it was. They kind of just needed another guy or two. I think Trent McDuffie's a huge signing, one of the best defensive backs in the game. So I think that's huge for them. I think they're going to be really good again this year. And I mean, if you look at, I don't think Seattle can. I'm not sure how good if Seattle can kind of repeat what they did last year. It's kind of the same thing
I
with the
think I
Vikings.
think they'll take a step back. They just lost a
Yeah,
coordinator who went to the Raiders,
yeah,
and obviously Kenneth Walker.
yeah. They lost some defensive
And
guys
you
too.
know what? Was that a one-off? I know Sam Darnold had two good seasons. One was the Vikings, one was Seattle. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but eh, does his coordinator matter? There's guys who can succeed without a good coordinator. Was it the coordinator? Was it that coach McDowell? So we'll see about Sam Darnold. I'm glad that he had a rebound in his career, but now I think there's expectation this year. You're the champ. People are going to be coming after you. So it's going to be interesting what Seattle does this year.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out. I mean, any quarterback can be good when you're surrounded by the right coaches and the right weapons. You saw that, in Minnesota, and you see that in Seattle. Great weapons, great coaching. So yeah, I mean, I still believe in Sam Darnold. I just think it's hard to be a 14 win team back to back and do that again. I mean, I think they're still a playoff team, but I just don't think they can sustain, best team in the NFL.
Yeah, and obviously the 49ers had some bad luck with injuries. Hopefully this year they can stay healthy. Rams are going to be good. So that is a loaded division. Obviously Arizona, it's going to be last. They don't have a quarterback. They're a dysfunctional organization. Uh, but that's definitely going to be a tough division for sure.
Yep, definitely agree.
Okay, so let's talk about your Vikings. They signed Kyler Murray to a 1-year deal. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think I'm always biased with whatever the Vikings decide to do, Ed. I, let's see. I don't mind. I enjoy it. I think we needed to bring some guy in, and I didn't care who it was as long as he was good and a respectable option. Was I expecting that we'd bring in a mobile quarterback? No, I think the Vikings haven't really. It's been a long time since the Vikings have had a mobile quarterback be their guy. I mean, in the last however many years, we've had a guy, normally predominantly like a pocket passer who could scramble if you had to, Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, the last actual who you'd say mobile quarterback's probably Teddy.
I
Uh,
wouldn't say, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so, um, and if you ask me who would I want, it's like I want someone who can get Jettison and Addison the ball. So it's like I wouldn't mind a pocket passer, but now you're going to bring out a whole new variety, a whole new level to the game with this. And I fully believe in KOC. I think he's an offensive genius, so I think he'll be able to work it in and make all the moving pieces kind of work together. So I like it. I like it. I'm excited to see what happens. It makes the offense a lot more exciting.
Yeah, look, obviously, Arizona is one of the most dysfunctional organizations. Kyle Murray, this big time talent. It seemed like it didn't work. Obviously, some of it was maybe his effort. He played video games a lot. Didn't
Yeah,
really
oh,
watch film. You heard rumors about that. Uh, and now for Kyler, it's time for you to grow up. This is another shot with a good offensive coach, and Kevin O'Donnell.
yeah, O'Connell. Yeah.
O'Donnell. So, and look, I think he'll be motivated. So yeah, I like to pick up a lot. And obviously JJ McCarthy, it's your time to step up this offseason. You got the whole summer to train, work out, get better on your accuracy. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting competition. Uh, and JJ, I don't think you have the edge. So you have to have a good training camp. And also OTAs to really show the coaches that you are the day one starter.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not out on JJ by any means. Um, but I don't think he's gonna, yeah, like you said, take the lead on this race. And is this the question that you're gonna ask me, Ed?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't, I think, who will be the day one starter? I'm leaning Kyle Murray.
I think it's Kyler 100%. I I I don't really, unless Kyler just looks bad or like I really don't know what would have to happen for Kyler not to get the day one job. I mean, JJ he had flashes. Um, he could put games together. He did what he had to do. He just wasn't always there, and he needed to be a bit more complete. So I think it's in this situation you got to bring in Kyler and you got to see what Kyler has for a couple of games, and see if they can do anything, and then if he looks really bad, go back to JJ. I mean, they also kind of can play a similar game. I don't think you really have to game plan them like with a big difference. They both can be mobile. They both decent amount of like throwing on the run. So yeah, I think it's Kyler. But I'm not out on JJ yet.
I am, but look, like I said, this division, was Kyle Murray, me being a day one starter. I think they can win the division. I mean, they have the talent, on offense. They have Brian Flores as the defense coordinator. He's a great defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the Bears, maybe slip back a little bit. The Lions, you don't know what Dan Campbell, he lost some games because of his aggressiveness, and I
Mm,
don't think he'll change. Um, and Green Bay, it always seems like they have an injury problem. You know,
yeah.
I think the Vikings, like I said, they're a quarterback away. Maybe they found their guy in Kyler. So right now, I don't know who to choose to win the division, but if Kyler does hit, they have a good shot at it.
Yeah, don't get me too excited, Ed. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I mean, yeah, like you said, as long as Brian Flores is the DC, the Vikings are gonna have one of the best defenses in the NFL, regardless of even the personnel that they have back there. He's just such a good coach. I know he'll get a head coaching gig, eventually he'll get his chance again. But for the time being, I'll take a great defense, and yeah, we have been a quarterback away from making a big splash. So I'm just waiting for it to be our time. Um, the Lions just weren't great last year. I don't know how big of a. I think they're going to come back and be a good team. I don't think they're going to be able to be like 2 years ago good, But yeah, Bears and Packers are going to be tough to beat. So they're getting better. So yeah, I think that's still probably one of the best divisions in the NFL if Kyler Murray ends up being even
Yeah.
above average good, you know,
No,
all
no, I absolutely agree with you.
yeah.
Um, I want to talk about Max Crosby. He got traded to the Ravens, and then the Ravens decided to say no deal. We're gonna sign Trey Hendrickson. What do you make of that situation?
Sussy, sussy. I mean, so you got to find loopholes. I don't disagree with finding loopholes if you can and if you're not breaking any rules. Um, so to go and kind of hold that trade and be pending a physical, and then realizing after the first couple of days of free agency that hey, Trey Henderson hasn't gotten signed yet. His value, he's not worth what maybe he thought he was. He's still negotiating with whatever teams. His value might have dropped a little bit. I think it's maybe not the most non scummy move, however you want to put it.
Yeah,
I think it's a smart move though. I
yeah,
mean
it's
Max
smart move for the
one of
Ravens, but it
like
stinks for the Raiders. They had a couple first round picks. They're
yeah
rebuilding. Uh,
yeah 2 first round picks. You're ready. You're thinking about okay, let's turn around, let's start rebuilding, and now you have him back. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having Max Crosby, but it's like you got to kind of start to get other players. One defensive end can't make your offense better. So, um,
defense.
but I'm saying the draft picks, the 2 first round draft picks,
Yeah.
probably would have
Okay.
had to
Okay.
hold
Okay.
what I mean by that. But so it's like that. And I think the Ravens to sign Tranders into the deal for what they got him for, the price they had to pay and save 2 first round picks, I think unbelievable steal. For the Raiders, just unfortunate, you know.
Uh, Do you think Max Crosby will be a Raider opening day?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you I mean, I don't even know. It seems like the whole physical thing is subjective, what it, a whole physical,
Yeah, I don't know what his knee
It,
looks like,
yeah,
so
yeah. It's like, I mean, he's a dog. He's gonna get healthy. You can't even say, oh, because he failed his physical. He's set back. He's not progressing how they thought he would. You can't say that. I think he's probably fine. I'm sure other teams would want him. I just don't know if other teams are gonna be willing to give up, the 2 first round picks.
yeah, I think his value has diminished because no one's
Yeah,
gonna give up. But I think you can still
yeah.
get good value in draft picks. Uh,
Right. But it's like the Raiders probably want those 2 first round picks. Yeah. So are they willing to give Crosby up for less than what they already had a deal in place for? Who knows?
yeah, well, I'm gonna say no. I don't think Max Crosby will be a Raider this upcoming season. Uh, but maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like the damage is already done. I think they'll find a way to move him to somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but I think they'll move him.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, but if you're the Bengals, what are you doing? I mean, their ownership is terrible. What are you gonna do? Like you just lost Trey Henderson. That defense is terrible. Are they
Yeah.
gonna just draft all defense? This
I mean,
draft?
I don't think drafting all defense would even help them as much as they need help on the defense. I mean, first of all, I think you got to get rid of Zach Taylor. He's been there too long, too much mediocrity, having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the best offenses in the NFL. You got crazy weapons with Jamar and T. Higgins, and I mean Chase Brown's still a solid back. So it's just that defense is so bad. They haven't put enough resources into that defense. Um, so they gotta do something because you can't expect Burrow to put up 40 points a game. I mean, he can do it a handful of games in the season. You know, he can play out of his mind and throw for 350 a game, but you don't want him to have to do that. You don't want to have to win like that because it's not sustainable, especially in the playoffs. And you know that's what you're doing if you're the Bengals. You know, you gotta. It's like Super Bowl. It's like playoffs. You got to make it deep, or it's a bust. You know, you have Joe Burrow at quarterback.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a prediction right now. This is the last year Joe will be on the Bengals. I think he will ask for a trade next offseason.
Send him to Minnesota.
That's a possibility. I mean,
I mean, there was already
I
had
would. I
that.
mean, I would give up multiple first round picks for Joe Burrow. I think that guy is really, really special. I
You give
mean,
up thing. Yeah,
he's just on a really horrendous teams. When I say team, I mean organization. Because the Bengals do nothing right. They're very cheap.
yep,
Uh, yeah, no, I think Joe Burrow will be on a different team in the 2027 season. I really do. I,
yeah. There's some chaos. I like that though. Yeah. Someone, I mean, he'll go anywhere where an organization will say, "Hey, we'll give you a defense. We give you offensive weapons, but we'll have a defense as well." I think he's sold. I think he wants to win. He's too much of a competitor to just keep staying there and not getting the results, you know, or the help from the organization on the defensive side.
do you have a winner and a loser this free agency? Like team wise?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I'm just gonna the easiest loser to say right now is the Raiders. I mean, I think you have to you lost two first round picks and you still have to find a suitor for Crosby. Otherwise, you're just going to be bad and lose more value out of him the longer that you wait to get rid of him. So I think that's the easiest person to say for a loser. Um, a winner, I mean, I think there's a handful of winners, and you kind of have to wait to see how the season pans out. I mean, I think the Bills did good with their offense. I mean, you get DJ Moore, you got Bradley Chubb, CJ Gardner Johnson. So you filled some areas. I think the Chiefs I mean, they lost uh, their DN, but I think getting Kenneth Walker is huge. I think the Seahawks are a slight loser, but that's kind of just what you expect after winning a Super Bowl. You know, your values of your players go up, and it's hard to re-sign everybody, so that's kind of expected. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
my
what
my
other
my
winners
my
have?
biggest winner is the Rams. I like that. I like Trent McDuffie. I think
Yeah,
he'll add a ton of value for the Rams. Biggest loser, like I said, I'm saying Bengals. You're not helping Joe Burrow out.
yeah,
So,
losing just by not doing anything.
yep.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say too. You know, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of other teams that we haven't really talked about. I mean, Mike Evans to the 49ers. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
Yeah.
Look, but that team is getting older. You know, hopefully, hopefully they can stay healthy. But who knows?
Yeah. The Texans, I like what they've done. They got David Montgomery. I think they re-signed or extended Danielle Hunter on the defensive end. So I think they kept their weapons. They got an extra weapon. So I like what they did. Um, Yeah, I think the thing about the Lions, they lost Montgomery, they lost Anzalone on defense. I forget where he went, but he left. So, and I don't even know. I'm not sure who they've gotten besides Isaiah Pacheco. So,
Yeah, I mean you're loaded offensively. They lose maybe a guy like Montgomery and um, yeah, who knows? This has been an interesting off season.
mhm.
Um, in terms of free agency, I am really looking forward to the draft. I think it's maybe a non-quarterback draft, but a lot of good edge rushers in this draft. Uh,
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, hey, thank you for coming on the show.
for sure, Ed. Yeah, I appreciate it. The draft's going to be good. When we got it coming up in what, about a month, probably right after March Madness, like mid end of April.
Yeah, it's something. I think yeah, mid-April, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, a lot of good defensive prospects, and then also, I mean, I can't wait to see where Jeremiah Love goes. Can't wait to see
Absolutely.
where Carnell Tate goes. Those are my two top offensive guys. I think they're going to be studs in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. But at the end of the day, the Jets will stink. They,
Right. Hey,
they got
Geno
Geno
Smith
Smith.
on
They
too.
got they got Geno Smith. Congratulations. That's
Yep,
probably another loser. Uh,
probably. But I mean, he's better than
Justin Fields.
yeah, better than Justin Fields, better than who? Tyrod Taylor. They had the other half of the year.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, yeah, maybe it'll be better than the first time. So
yeah. They they're probably thinking, oh man, we should have had the number one pick. But hey, if Geno got the number one pick for the Raiders, well, we might get the number one pick next year. So that's probably what they're thinking. Uh,
exactly, yeah, the tank's already on and the season hasn't even started yet.
yep, nope, they're gonna tank. They've been tanking the last 20 years because they've been so bad.
I know, I know, bummer.
Hey, sorry, sorry to be a Jets fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, like I said, thank you for coming on the show, and whoever watches this episode, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, Ed. Rock chalk.
Absolutely.
All right.